What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome to another edition of MVP Sports Live right here on, well, for right now, Twitch, but I'll get into that in a second, or you're watching us on YouTube. I am joined, as I usually, well, lately always am, Jake Neverman, my beautiful co-host. Jake, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. It's a great Monday night.
It's a weird Monday night because there's no basketball.
Yeah, I feel weird.
Like, there's baseball. Don't get me wrong. There's baseball every day. There's hockey playoffs, which have been exhilarating. Our resident fan, by the way, JD, I'm putting out his PSA to everyone. If you like playoff hockey, if you want to get into playoff hockey, he says watch the Tampa Bay Florida series, because apparently that's going to be a great series, as it was a great game one last night. But we were actually talking about something, Jake, before we went live. As I brought up, my throat made a noise, and it sounded like a Perry the Platypus. And I asked you if you were a Phineas and Ferb guy, and you said you were not a Phineas and Ferb guy.
No, I mean, not that I hated it. It was just more Sweet Life.
So I looked up, because I was like, when I remembered Phineas and Ferb, it was one of the things where it was like I felt like I was getting to the point where I was too old for it, but you still watch the kid stuff because you're still a kid. For you, Jake, when it first aired, you would have been the wholesome age of 9 years old, because you were born in 98, right?
Can I just... There's some somewhat breaking news in the NBA already.
Uh-oh, what's going on?
According to a leak source, Luke Walton will continue as head coach of the Sacramento Kings next season.
See, he's untouchable, my guy.
Wow.
He's untouchable. But you were 9 years old. I was 17 when it started. By the time it ended, I was 25. So it ran for about 8 years. So
it's a good stretch.
That's kind of why I think I felt like I was too old, because I was definitely watching it in my 20s. I was definitely watching it when I was like 23 and Disney Channel is on. Because let's be honest, as a late 20s guy, I was still watching Victorious on Teen Nick, because that show is fucking awesome, man. Guilty pleasure, top 5 guilty pleasure for Ricky Widmer is the show Victorious, because that show's amazing. I don't even know when that show came out. It's just reruns right now. That show came out in 2010 to 2013. So it came out when I was in my early 20s. I didn't start watching it till my late 20s. I don't know what that says about me. But, Jake, we got a great show today. We're talking NBA. Luke Walton, do you have any thoughts on it? Kings?
The Kings are going to king. Yeah, there you go. The Kings are going to king.
I guess it helps stability within the organization, right?
I mean, do you want stability and suck? I mean, if that's what you want, sure.
But I thought they hired his replacement.
I do too.
I thought they right? They got Alvin Gentry after he was canned by the Pelicans.
I can't believe. I thought watching that game last night, I'm like, wow, this is what a way for Luke Walton to go out.
Unless they feel like Alvin Gentry is going to be like the Mike Daney and Tony.
You don't need Alvin Gentry. You can hire somebody else. Like why keep on a terrible head coach? I thought Luke Walton would do good. He clearly hasn't, and he's a bad head coach.
No,
it just needs to be accepted.
Well, as I told Dave when we were talking about coachings who could be fired, or coaches who could be fired, I am on record being a Luke Walton defender back in the day. And I have vastly done a 180 on that, as I am no longer a Luke Walton defender. When he first got the job with the Kings and with LA, I'm like, dude, he's fine. He's a rookie right now. You know, he's not dealing with that Golden State talent. Now I have no excuses for him. But before we get into everything, though, talking play-in tournament games, talking Celtics draft for today, let's go ahead and do the housekeeping really quick. Number one, if you're not a part of the Discord, go ahead and join it right now. It is truly the greatest community in the universe. You can talk to everyone from the MVP family and us every single day about the sports we love. That link is down below, or !Discord in the Twitch chat gets you that link. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids, as I go ahead and do that. I have a special thank you to our new $5 patron, Mad Rogue. So thank you to Mad Rogue for joining the Patreon family, being a $5 patron. And also thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. And then the last one is, this is the last week we're on Twitch. So you might be watching us on Twitch right now. This is the last week we're on Twitch. We're moving to YouTube, so go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube, MVP Sports. If you have not already, that is where we are going to be live starting Monday, the 24th. But Jake, let's get into everything. And we got 4, so how we're going to do it is we're going to take a look at each of the 4 play-in tournament games. And then at the end, make our predictions before going into Boston draft. And the first one we're taking a look at is the Eastern Conference games. They start tomorrow, 5:30 Pacific or 5:30 Central Time. Pardon me. We've got Hornets and Pacers. How should we feel about this one? The Hornets are a team that have been one of the funnest teams to watch in the NBA this season. The Pacers they've been a bit on the downcline as of late. They were higher earlier in the season. Now they see themselves in a 9-10 matchup.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. The big thing will come down to this game is if Gordon Hayward's going to be able to play or not. He is a big difference maker for this Charlotte team and kind of a stability piece for their offense. So if he, it was 4 hours ago, Hayward will not play. So that'll be the turning point in this game is how interesting it'll be. I mean, I think Hayward is huge for this Hornets team to succeed, but at the same time, you turn around and you look at this Pacers team. They're also like reeling apparently the entire they have so many different issues going on in their back room apparently with their head coach and not actually being able to manage his team. So they have the emergence of guys like O'Shea Brissett though, who's played really well, TJ McConnell, little pat on the back, 2 of my guys on this team. So it's a very tough game to read, honestly. If the Hornets are going to need one of, if not both, of Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham to shoot efficiently and they need to not turn the ball over like they have. So It's a very tough game to read, honestly. I think this is a very even matchup, and it's going to be a fun one.
This to me, and I hate to say this because I'm basically being soapy here on the show. I'm bringing the negativity right out of the gates. This is a draft pick game for me. This is a draft pick game because I feel so strongly in the I feel so strong in the Celtics and the Wizards against either of these two teams that I just feel like with the Eastern Conference, this game is going to be the draft pick game where it's like, do you almost want to lose to have those higher odds? I know people out there are going to chastise me for Ricky, you never want to lose a game. And I know that, who was I talking to? I think it was Retro that I was talking to, where he kind of asked the question where he was talking more last regular season game of the year, where he's like, now, coaches kind of sit there and go, you know what, maybe we don't want to win this game. We want to match up against this team in the playoffs. But he's like, you think players out there, they're playing to win out there? And I'm like, yeah, they're going to play to win. Like, these players on this team, on the Hornets and the Pacers, are going to play to win. But I almost feel like as a fan, maybe I'm smoking the ganja, Jake. But is this one where if you're a fan of either of these teams, you should just sit here and go, hey, maybe it's better we lose because then we get either a higher draft pick or higher odds to get into the top 4?
I disagree because I think Indiana can ask both the teams in the game above them questions on offense. I think
so?
I don't think any if with their coaching situation, it might be tough because obviously players not wanting to play for the coach. But if you look at it strictly from a talent standpoint, the Domantas Sabonis cannot be guarded by either of the front courts that the Celtics or the Pacers or the Wizards have. The Wizards' main weakness is their front court and their ability to stop big men, which is why I've seen on Twitter, the Sixers fans almost want the Wizards because the Wizards can't guard big men and obviously Embiid. So the Indiana's a very scrappy team. I'm not sure if I would pick them to beat either the Wizards or the Celtics, but the Celtics are another team that kind of are just dragging along and waiting for the season to end. They're not really going to do much in the playoffs. Any of these teams, the Wizards might make a series interesting and fun, but I'm not sure any of these teams in the play-in are going to win a playoff series or make a playoff series close regardless. So maybe you could throw that sentiment that you said out for all the teams, but if you're in this play-in game, I think any of these teams have the chance to beat any of the other ones at any given game.
So I'm looking at the Pacers against the Wizards this year. They're 0-3 against the Wizards. 2 of those games were in Washington, where the play-in game would be if they did play Washington, because Washington would be the higher seed. for that play-in game. Looking for Boston, though, when it comes to the Pacers really quick. It'd be easier if I was on my computer at my find tool. February 26th, they lost 118 to 112, but yet again, Jaylen Brown was probably playing that game, but yet again, was that when Tatum was out. And they haven't played, so really Indiana hasn't played Boston since February. They played twice in December in a series in Boston where they split that series. Pacers won the first one because they had the hot 3 games to start the year. Then they lost the second one. Then in February, they lost to Boston as well. That game was in Boston. So, like, I mean, that's the thing. With Indiana, though, like, they might match up with them, but do you think that because either of these teams will be the road team in the next game, that's going to be the hindrance that, hey, if it was a home game for them, it would have mattered a little more, or it would have helped them a little more, is what I'm going to say.
No, I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. The Wizards are a very tough team to read to me because I feel like I don't know how to, like, Russell Westbrook has been their main guy for the last 25 games, and they've gone something like 17-8 or 17-7 or something like that. So when he has a triple-double. So now Bradley Beal's coming back. How is that dynamic going to work? They've almost been better off when Beal doesn't score over 30 points and when Russ has more. I mean, when Russ doesn't shoot threes, literally, I don't have the stat in front of me. When Russ doesn't shoot threes, they have a way better winning percentage. So I'm interested to see. I'm not. It's very, these games are very tough to read because this is the problem with the play-in tournament. And while I find it made the last couple of games interesting, we're watching bad teams play bad teams. So, like, it's interesting and all, but it's very tough to read these games, honestly. In the Charlotte game, I think X factors are the Charlotte backcourt. How is LaMelo going to play? How is Terry Rozier going to play? And how is Devontae Graham going to play?
I was going to even say Miles Bridges out there, who's been.
Well, he's not a backcourt, yeah.
Yeah,
he's been good. He's been good though.
On the wing. Like, that's to me where it's like it's not just the backcourt. It's all of the backcourt plus the wing with Miles Bridges, because even Miles Bridges has been kind of injured towards the late of the season, where he's been questionable in a lot of games. Yeah,
I think the bench play of Malik Monk and Devontae Graham, and then how the consistency in the offense for Charlotte's been a problem at times this year, and getting quality shot attempts. So that's an issue. Charlotte also, their big man play has been very questionable. Obviously, Biyombo and Cody, and not Biyombo really has been questionable. But LaMelo makes a lot of these players a lot better than they actually are, including Miles Bridges, who we've seen take a wild jump this year.
Because he's just the best player from this past draft class. No big deal.
Correct. Yeah, no so I'm interested to see. It'll be very interesting how this, like, what style game this takes, because I could easily see this game turning into like a flame throwing game where you see Terry Rozier and Malik Monk get high, but I also could see the reverse where we're 90 to 88 going into the last 2 minutes. Like, it's either or could happen. Yeah, I will say out of all the games, this is the one that I'm least excited for. This is like the 4 on my. I'm definitely more excited about this game than I am about Spurs Grizzlies.
Really? Well, we'll get into that. The next one, I mean, we kind of touched it, but just to make a little like in depth about it, really Tuesday, this is the game of the night. This is the one I'm excited for because, as JD says, he says, I think the Wizards are the only play-in team who wants to make the playoffs. And that's the thing to me. Like, the reason why this game to me is so, like, I would say it's probably the second game that I'm most excited for is because of that. How the Wizards have played of late, I almost want to root for them. I want to root for them. I want them to win. Hell, I even want them to win the finals because of that Vegas bet that was put on them.
Whoa.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. But, like, the Wizards Celtics, to me, I think this is a game that, I mean, if Jaylen Brown was healthy, this game would probably be different. But, like, I think this is a very winnable game for the Wizards, and they would probably be my favorite heading into tomorrow night.
Totally agree. I think the Wizards have been outstanding the last couple months. I think them versus Brooklyn would be such a fun series. While Brooklyn would obviously win, I think them playing up against, like, Russell Westbrook in a playoff series.
The Brooklyn Globetrotters would beat the Washington Generals?
No, I'm sorry. I don't think so. I'm excited because Wall, if you ask me one team I don't want to see from the play-in, while the Sixers would still be favored to win that in the series, obviously, the Wizards are that team just because Russ brings that kind of X factor. While I'm known as a quote-unquote Russ hater and all that, he's still just like, he's such a ferocious player and he plays and gives his all every single game that it's kind of hard for me to bet against him at times, especially in this game with the Celtics being down how they are, Kemba being inconsistent. Kemba is the X factor in this entire game. If Kemba plays well, the Celtics can win. If he doesn't, it's Tatum carrying the entire team on his back, and he could score 45 and they'd lose.
It's like Ant AM said, if Tatum drops 40, Wizards are going to lose.
Yeah, I think like. Not even if Tatum has to drop 40, the Wizards probably win. Honestly, I think if Tatum could drop 45, if Kemba's not producing at all, like we've seen at times this season, the team will not win. Kemba is the X factor for this entire game and for the Celtics going forward this season. If he plays well, they can win. If he doesn't, they won't. It's as simple as that. Their bench is horrendous, but so kind of is the Wizards. So it's really going to be a starters matchup, and that's where these teams really falter is their bench depth. And obviously with Thomas Bryant going down, Daniel Gafford stepped in and been a very good piece for the Wizards. But I'm not convinced on either of these teams. But against each other, I'd probably have to favor the Wizards just because of would never bet on Kemba Walker to win a game.
Yeah, so it's weird. These teams only played twice, and they won the home games. And the one that the Wizards won, I want to say. No, the one that the Wizards lost was only by 1 point. It was a 111-110 game. So, like, even JD, our Celtic fan, I hope we lose. I just want this season to end.
That was me last year, JD.
I don't think it will end in the play-in tournament. Like I said,
No.
I think that the Wizards Celtics, yet again, we're getting into official predictions later, but how I just feel is this game will be for the playoffs. Whoever wins this game, it's going to be the 7th. Whoever loses this game is going to end up being the 8th seed because I just don't see the Hornets or Pacers doing much damage. Then to go over to the Western Conference side, we've got the first game on Wednesday, which is Spurs-Grizzlies. Why are you not excited for this matchup? Because to me, I agree with the fact that both play-in tournament games don't have the first one. The second one's the only one that matters.
I disagree just because the Hornets are so entertaining. Yeah, so I love watching the Hornets in turn.
Even here in the West, it's going to be Lakers and Warriors in the playoffs. But this game to me is more entertaining, or has the potential to be more entertaining than a Hornets-Pacers game.
I would say yes. I guarantee. I'll go on a limb here. I guarantee you the Lakers will be in the playoffs. Yeah. The Warriors.
I would love if they were not, but I don't think that'll happen.
The Warriors, while obviously they're heavily favored, they probably will win even if they lose the first game. I mean, that team entirely comes down to Steph and his production. If Steph has an off night, that's what makes these one games so hard to read and so interesting. Is that one off night? It's like March Madness, one off night, and you can be gone regardless of how good you are. If you have a bad game, you can be gone. But I won't bet against Steph. The Spurs, the Spurs versus the Grizzlies. I don't really have a read on it. The Grizzlies are such a fun team, but they're incredibly young. The Spurs are also a decently young team with a lot less star power, but with the Grizzlies getting Jaren Jackson Jr. back and how good their bench is and how good their spacing is at times, I would find it hard to bet against them in this game, but that's me betting against Pop, and that's also hard to do. So while it'll be an entertaining game, I'm not enthused about either of the teams. Yeah,
I mean, to me, I'm a little bit more enthused by this, mainly because... And yet again, it's because of my my gambling picks that I've watched a lot of Spurs basketball and Grizzlies basketball down the stretch. And the one thing for this game that I would say is if the Spurs are going to win, it's solely on them. Like all the games that I've seen, like they're a team that will either lose close or blow you out. Like that's just what I've seen late in the season. Whereas Memphis is a team, they're almost like that annoying gnat that just won't go away. If you're a good team, they will play up to you. Like the Clippers, we're going to play up to you. We're probably going to beat you. We may lose by 3, but we may beat you by 20. Whereas then they'll play a team like Detroit, and it's like, we lost by 10. It's like, how are you playing up to good teams and playing down to bad teams? And that's where, I almost agree with you. That's the part where I don't know how to read it because technically the Grizzlies are the higher ranking team. That's why the game is in Memphis. But it's really, I mean, I guess 5 games is a lot. It's a 5-game difference between the Grizzlies and San Antonio. That's why I guess the Grizzlies should be favored -3.5 right now. But like, I look at this and I go, this is a game that will probably be very close, could come down to a final shot, and I could actually see the Spurs. Like, if there's any upset in these 4 games, I would put most of my money on the Spurs. No, most of my money on the Wizards, second on the Spurs, and then third on the Warriors. Like, I do like a lot of the underdogs, but like, this is another one where I think the Spurs can get the upper hand over the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I really don't have a read on it. I genuinely don't. See, this is where it's tough. The Spurs are such a weird team to me in general to read because they are.
And these 2 teams, by the way, didn't mean to cut you off, have not played since February 1st.
So yeah, you can't even get a read off their past matchups. So I love the young athletic Grizzlies. John Morant's been pretty inconsistent this year, but it's so like I want to say it's March
Desmond
Madness.
Bane goes off too, Grizzlies can blow him out.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested to see how Jaren Jackson Jr. is playing. I haven't got to watch him that much since he's come back and how fast he's gotten back into the rhythm. I think it's interesting, and I would assume this is going to be a pretty defensive game, if anything, just because the Spurs are involved.
Yeah, I mean, to me, my keys of the game would be, does DeMar DeRozan show up? Because if he's scoring 20 plus, that's good for you. Do you get like a 15 plus, 20 plus performance from Lonnie Walker? And then on the Grizzlies side, who's showing up besides Ja, Jaren, and Jonas? Like, you got the 3 J's. We need some more J's. Maybe Gile gets going. Jesmyn is in the mix. Like, we need more of those J's. Jandon Jark, maybe he also gets going. That's like, I don't want to say
Gilman.
Javier Gilman. Got to throw him out for a Soapy's boy. If he plays, because he's been injured lately, Drayson Jalen, Dave's boy. But yeah, it's like, out of all the games, I will say, Hornets Pacers I ragged on. This game, Spurs Grizzlies, is a purist's game. That's what I'm going to say.
I'll be loving it.
It's a game for you and Dave. If you're a basketball purist, you'll love it. If you're a casual fan, you'll probably be, I'm bored. I'll wait till the next game. And that's where all the firepower is.
Yeah.
Warriors, Lakers. Like, this is the one game of the play-in tournament where Adolph Silver's going, yes, give me my money. Give me my money. Because this is a prime finals matchup in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I'm wildly excited. Well, I don't know if it'll be a close game per se. I think having 2 stars like Steph and LeBron to lead your play-in tournament, this is exactly what they wanted whenever they created it. It's going to be a very entertaining game. I'm interested to see how LeBron looks and how healthy he is. And Anthony Davis has already looked incredible the last couple games. So I'm excited. I honestly think that this game has the potential to be better than some first round matchups. So I feel bad for Suns fans because
Do you though? Because I think there's a high probability the Lakers could lose this game.
I think it's pretty low that the Lakers lose this game. I think the Lakers might blow them out, honestly. I don't think it's very close.
No,
like I
my
said,
friend.
Like I said, if Steph has an off game, they're getting blown out by nearly anybody. So
yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like even if Steph has a mediocre game, like, here's the thing I don't get, and maybe I'm reading too far into this. This Lakers team has not played good down the stretch, even with LeBron and AD out there. Like, their best game in the last few has been when LeBron was out and AD was the only star out there when he popped off. Like, I look to, and yet again, should I look at these games like microcosms to where I look at a game like the Kings game? Yes, it was LeBron's first game back, so that's the grain of salt there. But like, I look at it and I go, if a hindered Kings team coached by Luke Walton can beat you in LA, then why can't a Warriors team with Steph Curry, yes, depleted, but with Steph Curry and Steve Kerr, like, if I'm a Lakers fan, I would not walk into this game thinking you have it in the bag. You have the next game in the bag if you play the Spurs or the Grizzlies, but not the Warriors. This is going to be a game.
It could be a game. the games you're referencing are regular season games, and there's a vast difference. This is now a playoff
There
atmosphere,
is. We do have
and now
playoff
it
rotations
is
now.
playoff LeBron, and I will never bet against playoff LeBron ever.
We've
So
never seen playoff LeBron with a tweaked ankle though. We've never seen that.
yeah, it's still playoff LeBron. I refuse to bet against him. So
I understand,
as
but
you
I'm just
see,
saying.
let me just say, as you may see on our big show on Friday, I refuse to bet against LeBron. So I will.
Lakers champions.
Well, maybe. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game. The problem with the Warriors are going to have is how non-perimeter centric the Lakers can play, and the Warriors are going to have a lot of trouble, especially if Draymond Green is kept on the perimeter and not being able. Who matches up with Anthony Davis and who matches up with LeBron? My assumption is that Draymond Green will guard LeBron, and then who goes on Anthony Davis?
Yeah,
that's the question with the Warriors. And while I love Steph, and Steph is one of my favorite players in NBA history, I just find it hard to see how this Warriors team matches up with this Lakers team, unless the caveat is if Steph goes off, then they have a chance to win. Obviously, this is why I can make all these that's why I can make all these points and all these assumptions, and then at one game playoff, Steph can go and score 50, and none of it matters.
Yeah, and I mean that to me is why I say if you're a Lakers fan, don't walk in thinking you have this one in the bag, because I don't think they have it in the bag. Like, would I call you an idiot for thinking the Lakers would win? No, because they're the favorite for a reason. Right now they're minus 4.5 Vegas odds, but this is the most entertaining game of the play-in tournament. This is the only play-in tournament game that really matters, because this is the one that people want to see. Last thing we'll do before we get into Celtics draft, though, Jake, is make our final predictions. We'll start in the West because that's just where we were. How do you see the entire play-in tournament playing out?
So I think the Grizzlies Spurs is a coin toss. I'll go with the Grizzlies just because I love the Jays and I love John Morant. So I'll go with them. The Warriors Lakers, I'm going with the Lakers. Obviously, you can tell by my tone that I talked about the games. And then in the Warriors Grizzlies, I'll go with the Warriors. So I think the Lakers will play the Suns, the Warriors play the Jazz. And I think if that happens, both of these play-in teams have a chance to win a playoff series.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I wanted to go bold and be like, LeBron misses the playoffs, because I would love to see it. I would love flamethrower Steph Curry to say, hey, LeBron, how's it going? And then see like a Grizzlies team play up and upset the Lakers. Like, and the only reason I want to throw this out there, because Laker fans are going to be like, Ricky, you're a Laker hater. LeBron fans are going to say, Ricky, you're a LeBron hater. And although the Lakers are not one of my favorite teams, they're one of my
you do hate LeBron
teams. And LeBron, like, no, I don't hate LeBron. I hate the argument of the GOAT argument. That's why it seems like I hate LeBron. I don't hate LeBron. But the reason why I want the Lakers to miss out on the playoffs completely is I want one of these right to Adolph Silver. Like, you wanted this play-in tournament, and look at what I want the Thanos thing where it's him and Gamora, and it's like, so did you get your play-in tournament? I did. What did it cost you? Everything. It cost you everything. That's just me being spiteful against Adolph Silver. I want the league to be hurt because of this dumbass Mickey Mouse play-in tournament that shouldn't even happen. Give the 7th seed to the Lakers. Give the 8th seed to the Warriors. Let's go. Because I will say this. If the Lakers win, Lakers-Suns is going to be amazing. Not just a series, but the storylines behind it and how much those fans... Like, I don't think Laker fans care too much about the Suns fan base because they're the ones on top. But the hatred. I remember when we had Ziani on, when we used to do the patron call-ins, and he would say he hates the Lakers because of how much they owned his Phoenix Suns in the early 2000s and stuff, to where, like, that would just write itself. But I agree with you, but I'm going to go different. I'm going to go Warriors. Steph Curry's going flamethrower mode. They will get the win against the Lakers. They will play the Phoenix Suns in round 1. Sorry, we don't get that matchup. Then I will have the Spurs beat the Grizzlies. Lakers beat the Spurs. So, I mean, we have the same play-in winners, like teams, but it's just my Lakers are 8, yours are 7. and vice versa. And then for the East, I think this is easy. I think the Wizards win game 1. Celtics, doesn't matter who they play. Fuck it, they'll play the Hornets. And we'll have Wizards at the 7th seed going up against the Nets. Celtics, they go ahead and play your 76ers.
Because I want to be bold and I want to be different. I'll go Wizards in the first game. I'll go Pacers in the second game. Okay. And I'll say the Pacers beat the Celtics. So it's not like it probably won't happen. I'd love to see the Pacers. They could give the Celtics problems.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. This play-in tournament, too, it's like...
It's you could throw a coin. Yeah, it's like... It's one game play. It's like trying to predict March Madness. Your bracket's going to be bust right away.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I would even say there's more parity in March Madness than there is in this one.
Oh, yeah. Because for the first couple rounds, you can probably get 85% of the games if you just bet non-upsets. Yeah. And this... I mean, we literally everything we predicted could be like it's gonna be it's gonna be fun. It's a dumb idea still. I stand by it, but it'll be fun to watch.
It probably will. All of our predictions probably will be wrong. But Jake, let's end the show talking about some draft, and we're talking about the Boston Celtics. And for Boston fans out there, for Dave Oster, if you are watching, we had to make a concession. Sorry, Dave, we had to keep you off the Boston Celtic episode because we actually want Celtic fans to feel like we don't hate their team, although we're not Boston fans. So this is the segment where we kind of look at, hey, who are the best prospects? Who are the best fits for the Boston Celtics? First thing I will ask you, Jake, has to do with the positioning, because the weird thing about this is that right now they are not in the lottery, but let's just say,
yeah, we
they lose 2 games. Let's say they lose 2 games. They are now in the lottery. Do you think, like, yet again, we know the odds. The odds are 5% and then 2%, depending on if you're the last team or the team above. Do you think the Celtics jump up in the lottery, get a top 4 pick? Get one of the top 4? Cade Mobley, JG, or Jalen Suggs?
I hope not. I really hope not. I don't believe... All right, if they did get a top 4 pick, let's go with the top 4 pick. They would literally just be taking who's the best available.
Yeah.
So they probably take Jonathan Kuminga because that's the Celtics pick. No, they... Jalen Suggs would be a perfect fit for this team. Obviously there's probably no use in talking about it because it probably won't happen, but Jalen Suggs would be the perfect fit for this team. They need a point guard to play next to Brown and Tatum. Suggs is literally just that. So yeah, I would think that would be a perfect fit.
Let's say they're 13 or 14 though.
Yeah.
And they
13 or 14, they're looking for a bench piece most likely. They just need talent off the bench. Regardless of who it is, what it is, they need talent. A lot of people have Jalen Johnson falling down that far now. If he's there, that would be a pretty easy pick. Franz Wagner, I think that would be another very good fight. And then, they still have big man trouble. Kai Jones is a project center. He could fit very well on their team. He could step in right away, even though he is a project. He does a lot of things well already that he could step in to be a very big contributor on this team. I need to run somewhere real quick for 5 seconds, so you Phil.
You're good. For me, it's just one of those where... Because one of the things I will say, I will shamelessly plug, is that our next mock draft for MVP is dropping tonight or tomorrow morning. I'm recording it tonight, I will say that. So it might drop the wee hours of the late night or early tomorrow on our Patreon. So if you want to get that mock draft early, go over to patreon.com/MVP vids gold and above. Get that a week early, or you just wait. It'll come out the 24th for everyone else. And doing my mock today for the Celtics, I was kind of sitting there going, what do they really need? Because I know, like, Ant in the comment section or the Twitch chat goes wings, wings, wings. Kai Jones as well. JD says, give me a future point guard. I will say, let's see where I leaned. I don't want to give away.
Can I say something
Go ahead.
So those Celtics fans who want a future, like, do you mean like a future starting point guard? Is that what we're talking about? Because they're starting bench point guard they already have.
It's kind of gone. Like, that's the thing for me, where I was sitting there and I was thinking, looking at their spot rack, to where it's like, because to me the bigs are going to be interesting. I know that, like, we bring up Kai Jones, like, the first, and this is from me doing a mock draft. It depends to me how early Segun is going to go, how early Kai Jones is going to go, how early, because like in my mock, I will say this, not saying teams they went to, Segun was one that I had a team trade up for. Kai Jones was one that I had a team go, well, higher than where he would be on a big board. And then also Isaiah Jackson went higher than where he would be on a big board. And all of those were before the Celtics, to where it's like, at that point on my draft board, it was like the next big would be, so it's at what would they be, like 13 through 16. It's like, all right, are you going to, if you want a big that much, are you going to reach for a Garaba or a Naminas Queta? Or are the Celtics a team that they sit there, they go, they don't want anyone, let's find someone to trade back with?
Celtics don't trade picks. We know this.
I know this, but I want to I want to talk about it, of course.
I don't think so. I think if they are in this scenario of being in the middle of the first round, which they probably are, they're not going to be there for a while, most likely, with their offseason picks. They take whoever the best available is, or if they have to package this pick in a Kemba Walker trade to offload him, that is a possibility.
Do you think do you think Garaba at 16 would be a reach?
No, I don't know. I think that's pretty. If you can get him at 16, that'd be pretty good. I think a lot of people have him in the 10 to 15 range now.
Yeah. Okay.
Defensive monster. There might. See, the problem is Usman Garaba can't play next to Robert Williams, most likely, so they're kind of overlapping in play styles. I don't know if I love the fit of him in Boston. He gives them a defensive big, but he's not. The only question with Usman Garaba is kind of the same questions we have with Robert Williams: is foul trouble and being able to guard, like flexibility and how he pairs against fives. So that's the only question I'd have with that. Is I think they overlap a little too much in profile. Yeah. So, but I think a wing or a guard is what you have to target here if you're in the middle of the first round for them. I'm not high on James Bouknight. I know a lot of people are. Big scoring guard. He could be perfect for them. I mean, even Jared Butler. I know that if he falls that low, he's perfect for them there. And then Trey Mann's a guy. I love Trey Mann. He's literally like Devin Harris 2.0. He's not going to be great.
You don't think Trey Mann at 16 would be a reach? Because most of what I'm seeing online is having Trey Mann at like the very end of the first round, like 25 and lower.
Might be a reach to some people, but Trey Mann's in the teens in my board. So I think he's just going to be a very solid NBA player. Devin Harris 2.0 is what I'll continue to call him. Yeah. I mean, even like, hey, I'll stroke your ego a little bit here. I know it's way too early, but Ayo Dosunmu is a perfect pick for them. He is exactly what they need. He's exactly what they need. He needs a scoring guard who would be perfect next to Peyton Pritchard. He's not a primary ball handler, but he can be if he needs to be. And him played in a secondary role. Him and Peyton Pritchard would be a great backcourt duo off the bench.
Like, to me, I'm trying to think. There's two guys that I think that would be absolutely perfect for them at 16. Like, Ayo, you're stroking my ego there. Man, I really like as a prospect too, watching him. But like, so JD, he's a Celtics fan. He says either a true 4 or a point guard. So my first question is, by JD saying true 4, JD, you can answer this in Twitch chat, but I'm going to ask Jake what he thinks of this as well. What does he mean by true 4? Does he mean like not a stretch 4 then? Just one that's going to bang down
I guess
low?
a stretch 4.
Okay.
I think it would be a stretch 4. I think a stretch 4 is what a pure 4 is now in the league. I'm not quite sure if there really is that in this range of somebody you want to reach for. I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl is a guy who can turn into that, but I think this is a bit early for him to go in the draft.
I mean, the only one in this range that's close to that is Kai Jones, but like he doesn't have that stretchability yet. You would have to work on him with that.
I don't really think he's a 4 either. I think he transitions more to a 5. Yeah, so the Celtics though, like I don't think they have a generic need. They just need talent. Yeah. Their bench is horrendous outside of Peyton Pritchard. I know they have some young projects, but what they need here is they need a 3 to 4 year college player who's going to step in and be a good NBA player right away. Jeremiah Robinson Earl is the perfect pick for them. It's just probably too early for them to take him, most likely on most people's boards. This is where I have him around. Yeah. Franz Wagner is another guy who's going to step in and be a good NBA player right away. That would be another solid pick. Sumo, same thing.
I will say this. There were so many teams between 9 and 16 to where I'd be like, man, their pick should be Franz Wagner. And it's like, oh shit, he's off the board already. Like,
Yep.
I'm starting to feel like Franz Wagner for these teams between like 8-16, maybe 8-20. It might be a thing of like, is someone going to trade up to go get him? Is someone just going to take him? So like a team later on is just fucked. And it's like, great, we would have loved to have Franz, but we couldn't get a deal done to move up. I'm looking at a Bleacher Report article from earlier when I was doing my mock draft that I found interesting. Is they created an article of like the top 3 realistic picks for each team, where they would be. And the 3 they listed, I like 2 of them. I think one would be a major reach to where the Celtics would have to trade down. The 2 that I like are Kai Jones, although like I would like Kai Jones, although I think if you want to stretch 4. So, okay, JD says someone like Harrison Barnes, then Kai Jones would not be my guy.
Jeremiah Robinson Earl. That's literally...
Would Isaiah Jackson be a bad pick for them? Like, I think if you're picking for a 4 and you want someone who can shoot, like, Robinson Earl would be a reach here. Maybe you trade back for that. But if you're picking at 16, I would take Jackson over Kai Jones if you want that shooting ability and you want that shot from the outside.
I'm not confident in Isaiah Jackson's shot really that much, and he profiles that more as a defensive big more than anything else. So again, I'm not
defense. Could they not?
I'm not sure about the fit. I'm not sure about the fit on this team.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to say a guy who has wing tendencies who can stretch the floor. I mean, Rokas Yakubitis. I'll just throw it out there because that's exactly what he does.
Is he gonna go? Like, I know both.
He's gonna go in the second round. He's gonna go in the
but...
second round. But I'm saying if you want guys who fit that profile. Yeah. You might have to reach in this draft. This draft is like
even they've got Zaire Williams. I would love Zaire Williams to them, but I'm not taking him at 16.
I mean, this is also 16. Giddey is going to be just around this range most likely. So if Giddey is on the board for the Celtics, it'll break my heart. But I really hope it doesn't happen. But if Giddey is on the board, the Celtics would have to take him just because he fills a lot of needs that they have and a lot of like the tendencies that they need in some of their bench players or even a starter. Is what he brings. So if you could look to move, see the dream for the Celtics is like if you get Giddey here, and then you can move Kemba out and hopefully get a stretch 4 somewhere else at a deal. That's the dream, and you play Robert Williams at the 5. But in this draft, it's like 4 players, and then it's whatever your rankings are. We're going to see a lot of reaches in this draft, just like we saw in the NFL draft this year, because the difference between teams' big boards and our big boards are going to be massive, especially because all the information they have. So Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Villanova, he checks all the boxes. Can play a stretch 4, can guard wings, and he played at Villanova, which produced good NBA players. He ticks all the boxes for a Celtics pick.
The one thing about Zaire Williams at Bleacher Report mentions, they say general manager Danny Ainge has a history of valuing RSCI rankings and high school scouting and not putting too much stock into freshman stats or inefficiency for one-and-done prospects.
You talking about Ainge?
Yeah, Ainge.
Oh, that explains why he's a shit you're after then.
Danny Ainge values RSCI rankings and high school scouting. They mentioned that for Zaire Williams, which, like, for me, like I said, at 16, you know,
that's so dumb.
I know.
Sorry,
I know.
That's so dumb.
We're just gonna ignore your last year.
How could you only look into high school? No, that's just laziness and stupidness. I can't even deal with that.
If you're looking for a point guard, because that's like, to me, I wasn't even looking at bigs, because for me on my mock draft, I will tell you this: Segun gone by the Celtics, Jackson gone by the Celtics, Kai Jones gone. So it's really Garaba is the one that's there. However, you look at that point guard position and that guard position in general, and you've got Marcus Smart is in a contract year next year. You've got Kemba Walker, who is basically he's got 2 years left. He's got next year, and then he's probably going to take his player out, but you could probably move on from Kemba Walker. If you're looking at guard position, because of Brad Stevens and how Brad Stevens loves to rotate guys and he loves his rotations, I have ragged on this guy as a prospect. The reason why I have ragged on him is because early on, people were saying that he was the third best point guard in the draft. And I said, you're ludicrous, because that's like calling Kobe White the third best point guard in a draft. He's not a frippin' point guard. And that's Jaden Springer. Like, I've ragged on Springer for not being a true point guard because he's a combo guard. But on the Celtics, it would fucking work. Because even with Kemba and Smart there, you can rotate him with both of them and Jaylen Brown between the twos. And then basically, then you can make a decision. If you have to get rid of Marcus Smart, Jaden Springer's there. If you want to keep Smart, get rid of Walker, boom, you have Jaden Springer there.
Well, I think we should take this. The Celtics, if they are picking in the middle of the first round, need to look to improve their bench. They are not looking to, like, if you get a starter in the middle of the first round and that's just a bonus.
Yeah,
like, but I'm saying
do you think that it's bad to have a guy who can be off the bench but also be rotated in with the starters?
No, that is what you need. Yeah. But if you're looking to improve this bench, I think Springer wouldn't be a bad pick. If Springer falls to them and they take him, I think that'd be a great pick. Chris Duarte is another guy that I'd look at. I think he's a prototypical 3-and-D wing off the bench, play next to Peyton Pritchard would be great. They do need a secondary ball handler off the bench. They need somebody so Peyton Pritchard doesn't have to dribble the ball 500 times in a game and dribble the ball to death off the bench. So if you could look later and take a Deshaun Highland, that would be perfect for them. You could put Peyton Pritchard, Deshaun Highland, and Chris Duarte on the court at the same time. Hopefully, the hope with the Celtics is you see a little bit of growth in guys like Romeo Langford, and maybe Grant Williams becomes an NBA player at some point. I don't know. Their drafting has been so bad over the last couple of years outside of Brown and Tatum. After the top picks, their draft has been terrible. Mid, late first round, they've been terrible. They need to adjust something and change how they draft later in rounds. Taking a Deshaun Bones Highland in the late first, early second, taking a Chris Duarte, who you know is going to step in. Chris Duarte is going to step in and be a decent NBA player. Is all they need off the bench to improve their bench play.
I mean, one thing I will say, and this is kind of me repeating what we've already said, is they're not going to trade, but I am going to bring up the trade talk. If I was Danny Ainge and I had one brain cell in my brain that actually worked and knew how to fucking make picks for basketball, I would seriously think about trading up for Franz Wagner. Because like what you just talked about, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, one of the things that I've seen Celtics fans fear and other places just meme on is that Danny Ainge will pick like Corey Kispert with 16. And it'll be like, oh, we took the best shooter. Just like they valued Fast PP and Neesmith for their shooting. Why not then, if you are the Celtics, say, hey, we're a playoff team. Why not go up and draft a guy who can not only shoot effectively, but like the thing with Wagner that I think is going to be the most crucial to his NBA drafting and why he goes higher than some people might think is he's a guy that is a forward but can guard 2 through 4. He's not just a wing guard. It's like he's quick enough to put on 2s, but he's strong enough to put on 4s.
Yeah, I have reservations of Franz Wagner's long-term value, but short-term with the Celtics and their roster, he'd be fine to plug in off the bench, or even if you want to plug him at the 4 and play, it's fine. Yeah. I think if they're trading up, a Moses Moody would be absolutely perfect for their bench. There's a lot of people I think Jalen Johnson has the potential to be one of the steals of the draft if he's falling, like people are saying. And if he's falling, the Celtics should be one of those teams that's straight up to try to get him. I know he has, quote unquote, concerns in his I don't know what it is.
I don't
character
buy it.
Concerns. I don't buy it either. And he's being compared. And if you look at him, he looks like a lot of the tendencies of Paul.
He's a top 10 pick for me.
Agreed. I think he's a top 7 pick probably for me. He has a lot of the same tendencies that Paul Pierce had. He looks a lot like Tobias Harris if you look at his game. And if you can get that in the middle of the first round by trading up, by giving up a couple of picks, we know Danny won't do it, but he should. That any team should. Jalen Johnson, it could be the steal of this draft, and him. The Celtics need to finally just do it. They have Brown and Tatum. They have 2 absolute stars. Tatum is going to be a superstar, and you have to build a roster around them by being aggressive. You've tried this tactic of we're not going to trade back. We're going to accumulate young talent. You're not Sam Hinkie. You're not the Sixers. You can't do it at the same level. They could trade up, take a for sure thing in Franz Wagner, into a Moses Moody, or take the risk on a Jalen Johnson and say that you can fix him because of how well he could be.
Dude, the thing with Jalen Johnson, I'll put on the record again in case some people have not heard my take on him, is I feel, yet again, maybe a younger Ricky, a Ricky that was in college, maybe when we just started doing this in like 2012, 2013, would have had the thought process of, oh, he's a cancer in the locker room, can't draft him. But like, I look at it and I go, do you think he just clashed with Coach K? And that's all it was. That he was like, I'm the best player on this team. I deserve to be playing more. And Coach K looked at it and said, it ain't all about you. It's about the team. And he was like, well, I'm only here to get drafted. It's about me. And that's why like, yet again, some people may look at that and go, see, he's all about himself. He ain't about the team. But like, that's the thing. When you're a high valued recruit, it would almost be like Coach K telling Zion, RJ, and Cam, hey, you know what? I'm not going to play you as much. Like,
I don't read into character concerns of an 18-year-old in college. I'm sorry. I understand that people make dumb choices when they're young, but people grow up. So I think adults saying this guy shouldn't get drafted high, like I take basketball potential well over. I mean, of course, some character concerns exceed it, but him clashing with a head coach at 18, I don't really buy that.
Have you ever had a disagreement with a teacher at 18?
Yeah, I've had a disagreement with a coach at 16. Like,
bingo. It
happens. All right, it happens. And if people don't want to play in the NCAA, I don't blame them. So I don't hold it against them at all.
Yeah. Anything you think we haven't touched with the Celtics that we need to for their draft conversation?
I think it's very possible that I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but a Kemba trade this summer. Very possible that some of these picks are packaged.
What would that look like?
I would assume they're going to have to give up a first along with Kemba to get rid of him to somebody and take a probably 1-year salary dumper. I don't know who it would be. I don't know what team would even want him, but they're going to have to find a team or a third team that has a 1-year contract that is big enough to offload Kemba and give a first-round pickup to somebody. So it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be an easy trade to pull off. We saw the Sixers do it and get somebody back like Danny Green. I don't know if the Celtics will be able to find the same value as that, but it'd be interesting.
Yeah, and like I think and yet again, me doing a mock draft has kind of solidified this a little bit. After the top 4, it's going to be fucking crazy. Like after the 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be like, because so many times I looked at my mock today and I went, yeah, that's a reach. I went, but if the team wants it, and it's on their board. Like, that's why I wish that your big board was on our combined spreadsheet, Jake. Because, like, I had 2 big boards, Tankathon, I think SIs, and then Dave's. And I was constantly going between the 3. Like, okay, what do they think? Okay, what does Dave have? What does he have? To kind of, like, gauge the different mindsets of, like, how big of a reach is this really?
I got to keep it in my back pocket.
Yeah, Jake doesn't like to let anything be known out there. But that's going to do it for MVP Sports Live today. It's a good show, good little show talking about Celtics draft, talking about some Mickey Mouse playing games. Mickey Mouse. But I mean, I hope they're good. I hope they're good basketball. Like, I'm not going to root for bad basketball, but I just don't think a playing tournament is needed. Let us know what you guys think down below about anything we talked about today. Remember, join the Discord, greatest community in the universe. You can also support us. Well, that link is down below in the description, !Discord and the Twitch chat. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids. Thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill, and thank you to our newest $5 patron, Mad Rogue, for becoming a patron today. Remember, the mock draft I'm recording today. So if you want to get that a week early, patreon.com gold membership gets you that. Just $10 a month gets you that content a week before everyone else. Otherwise, it'll be out on the 24th, next Monday. When it will drop to everyone. We are going to be on Twitch for the rest of this week. As of Monday, though, we will be on YouTube the 24th. We are moving to YouTube full-time, MVP Sports on YouTube. Go ahead and sub to us over there. Thank you to Jake for being a great co-host yet again. It'll be NBA again tomorrow, as I believe it's NBA. No, we have MLB on Wednesday. It's NBA most of the week. With MLB on Wednesday. Tomorrow will be Soapy and Dave with you guys here, but that'll do it for us. Thank you guys for being as great as you always are, and as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.